speak English fluently.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. If this is your first time here, let us introduce ourselves. I'm Alex,
And I'm Emily.
and this is the podcast where we talk about all things English, how to improve, common mistakes to avoid, and all the fun and sometimes frustrating parts of learning the language.
Exactly. We want to help you learn English in a natural and enjoyable way. So if you're looking for tips, motivation, or just a good conversation, you're in the right place.
Before we jump into today's topic, Emily, how's your week been?
Oh, pretty good. I actually started learning a little bit of French.
No way, that's awesome. How's it going?
Let's just say it's harder than I expected. The pronunciation is so tricky. Like, words don't sound the way they're spelled at all.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. I've been struggling with Spanish pronunciation lately. It's making me appreciate how confusing English must be for learners.
Right? I was thinking the same thing. I mean, English pronunciation is wild. Like, why does through, though, and tough all look similar but sound completely different?
Oh man, that's a great example. English pronunciation is just chaos sometimes.
You know what? We should talk about this today, why English is so difficult to learn.
That's a great idea, because I think every English learner struggles with this at some point.
All right, let's start with pronunciation, since that's what led us here.
Oh yes, pronunciation is one of the biggest struggles for English learners. You can't just read a word and know how to say it.
Exactly. Take words like kernel, choir, or subtle. If you've never heard them before, there's no way you'd guess the correct pronunciation.
And don't get me started on silent letters. Like, why do we have a K in knife or knock, or a B in comb?
And then there are words spelled the same but pronounced differently, like lead, the metal, and lead, to guide someone.
It's a mess. Honestly, the only way to improve pronunciation is by listening as much as possible. Watching movies, listening to podcasts, and repeating what you hear.
That's so true. And I always tell learners, don't just read English, make sure you listen to it too. Speaking of tricky things in English, can we talk about phrasal verbs for a second?
Oh man, phrasal verbs are so confusing for learners.
Right? Give up, give in, give out, give off. They all have totally different meanings.
And native speakers use them all the time, which makes it impossible to avoid them.
Exactly. And the worst part is you can't always guess the meaning. Like, take off can mean to remove something, take off your jacket, or for a plane to leave the ground. The plane took off.
Yeah, my advice? Don't try to memorize them all at once. Instead, learn them in context. Watch shows, read books, and notice how they're used naturally.
100%. And whenever you learn a new phrasal verb, use it in a sentence immediately. That way, you'll remember it better. Okay, but pronunciation and phrasal verbs aren't the only challenges. What about grammar?
Oh yes, grammar can be a huge struggle, especially tenses.
The present perfect tense is one of the most confusing ones. Learners always ask, when do I use I have seen instead of I saw?
And honestly, it's tricky even for advanced learners. Sometimes, grammar is less about strict rules and more about getting a feel for the language.
Yes, and don't even get me started on prepositions. In, on, at, so many rules and so many exceptions.
Like, why do we say in the car but on the bus? It doesn't seem logical.
Sometimes I think the best way to learn grammar is just to accept that English is weird.
I agree. Instead of memorizing endless rules, it's better to see grammar in action. Listen, read, and use it naturally.
You know what I think is the biggest reason people struggle with English?
What?
Fear of making mistakes.
Oh, 100%? So many learners don't speak because they're afraid of sounding silly.
But here's the thing. Making mistakes is actually a good thing. It means you're learning.
Yes, no one speaks a new language perfectly at first. Even native speakers make mistakes.
And honestly, most people don't care if you make mistakes. They just appreciate that you're trying.
That's so true. If you want to learn English faster, you have to stop worrying about mistakes and just speak.
Exactly. So, to everyone listening, be brave, practice every day, and don't let fear hold you back.
Wow, this was a great conversation.
Yes. We covered pronunciation, phrasal verbs, grammar, and confidence, some of the biggest struggles English learners face.
And we shared a lot of useful tips. Listen more, practice in context, don't stress about mistakes, and just keep going.
Learning English takes time, but if you stay consistent, you will improve.
So, if you're listening right now, tell us in the comments. What's the hardest part of learning English for you?
We'd love to hear your experiences. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.